Right. 6:30, call the Board of Finance meeting to order, start with pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Anybody? Have we heard from Eric?
He's not coming. Eric is not coming.
All but one.
Right.
The minutes were distributed by Jerry for April 15th and for May 13th. Take them individually, starting with the April 15th minutes. I'll take a motion for their approval.
So.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any changes, deletions, additions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we'll go to May 13th. Is there a motion for their approval?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any changes, additions, deletions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much, Jerry. Moving right on, public comment. We have no public in the room, we have no public online, so we will keep going. Suspense report.
I'll do the suspense report.
Thank you.
Okay, so you have the suspense report for our 15 years of suspensions, and that covers the grand list period of 2023 to 2028. We always talk in terms of fiscal year, so for us, that would be fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 2010. So we're looking at grand list years. So of this report, the active grand list years, ones that are still being processed, are grand list years 2023 to 2020. For us, current fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 22. And so the most recent year that's being added to the suspense is grand list year 2019, fiscal year 2021. And those are the items that are suspended. There's nothing unusual. It encompasses personal property and motor vehicles. They are suspended, but they are never written off. We never add real estate to the suspension list because if there's a delinquency, we put a lien on the property. So this is prepared by the tax collector, and it's going to be signed off by the chair of the Board of Finance, and it will be incorporated into our financials.
Questions? For Leanne, George.
I think I said last year, so I should write it down. So did this just become a loss? When is the line item where you just the loss of 17,000, 19,000?
It goes into a suspension account and it is never written off ever. So if somebody were to leave Connecticut in 1972 and come back, and then we find out, for the old Saybrook, I should say, and find out that they owe money on their car taxes, we would have that on our record and we would charge them.
But there's no, in terms of just balancing the account, do you actually subtract 19,000 or something?
It is transferred from,
But I guess it was never added, right?
it was never added, right?
That's fair
So when we budget for the tax collection revenues like we just did,
Right,
we put a budget amount on it, but that's 99%.
fair enough. I see
So
that.
1% is never recorded,
Sure.
and so when we suspend, you know,
I see
we
that,
just
sure.
suspend the amount that we expect to get.
I
So
see.
we think we're gonna get 100%, you know, with the tax collector
Right.
thinks he's getting 100%, so there are accounting entries that do take place for this. I don't know the exact editor.
And this is probably even less than 2%, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right, okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Now, we have very good tax collection. But
I'm sorry.
Sure. I apologize. If we were to collect from someone, we would be charging them interest, am I right?
yes, and so in the tax, in your report that I show, current year taxes, past year taxes, and then loans, liens and fees that are a collection on these past due balances.
like 18%.
At 18,
Right.
yes.
Good.
Under, with the boats in town, are those taxed to the town if they're docked at the various marinas?
Boats are taxed as personal property.
Yeah, it's personal property.
They're not a real estate, they're not a motor vehicle. I think it's.
Right, but are we getting tax revenue for all the boats in town? All the docks?
So if a person lives in Essex but docks here, do they pay a tax to us for
Well,
the
you
boat?
register a boat, right? Don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't know the answer to that question.
I have the feeling, because I used to own a boat, I'm trying to find. I don't think that we paid taxes on the boat, I think we paid taxes on the trailer, but I'll ask the tax collector that question and send it around.
And then the other thing is, are we selling, is the town selling any of these past delinquent, taxes?
So what we've done is so last year, we had about 6 or 7 old tax delinquents that were over 20 grand or more than 3 years. And we have a policy now, Board of Selectmen policy, that has to be 3 years old or more than a certain amount before we can proceed.
No, I didn't mean that.
No, well, and then there's several ways you can do this. You can do a tax foreclosure, do a tax sale. And actually, there's another way, but, so what we did is we contacted a lawyer out of Pullman Conway in Bridgeport. Apparently, he speaks at tax collector conferences. Mark found him. His name, I think, is Adam Cohen, I want to say. You sign up with him, there's no fees, and what he does is proceeds, and he says, if you want to pay this off, you pay it through me. We have nothing to do with it anymore. And not one of them ended up being attacked, sold. And we collected, Mark Delmonico did a little report on this, I think, for the board. And we ended up collecting every dollar, never paid a lawyer's fee because it was all taken care of by him. And when they settled the tax lien, they had to go to him. So that's the way we've done it more recently. Now, I don't know if that's responsive to your question.
Well, I've heard in the past that, like, say, somebody owes a lien tax on a car that's 2 years old. You can go in and pay the tax and then you own it. So then you can charge
Yeah,
18% interest. And then,
yeah,
you know,
that's not what,
same thing with property.
that's not what this was.
Yeah.
So now when you sell tax liens, so you're right, that's the third way, is you can sell a
Right.
tax lien. The legislature is reducing the interest rate on that to 12% from 18. You can do a tax sale, which is just the lawyer saying, we're gonna put this property up for auction. So you're not selling the lien, we've never sold the lien, or you can do a foreclosure,
Mhm.
which is a laborious legal process,
Mhm.
which we've chosen to avoid.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah.
But the way we did it was incredibly efficient. We were like, whoa, really good.
Other questions?
So,
Does this require a vote or just a signature?
But we voted on
It
this
says
before.
reviewed. Yeah, okay. Oh,
Okay, so I will take a motion to approve the suspension list.
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Can I just sign the one I have in front of me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We will move on. Barbara, that's all yours.
All right, I have a brief report tonight. So we'll start with our executive summary as of April 30th. So fiscal year to date, the town has received revenue of 53 million, excuse me, 377,891, or 103.8% of the total amount of 51,440,042 budgeted for fiscal year 25. When comparing our performance to last fiscal year, we are 0.5% ahead of this time last year. Then we'll move to the middle authorized investment section. At the end of April, the town had 40.9 million in its bank accounts. In the last month, the STIP rate has stayed steady at 4.51%, and today it is at 4.39%. And as you know, Webster gives us the STIP rate in arrears, and their rate last month was 4.52%. So then we'll move down. Any questions there? Okay, we'll move to the pension plan. At the end of April, we received a report from Morgan Stanley. The town pension plan is up 3.49% fiscal year to date versus its benchmark of 5.02%. Over the 3-year horizon, the town plan has returned 6.18% versus its benchmark of 7.45. The fire department plan is up 3.31% and has returned 6.15% over the 3-year horizon versus its benchmark of 7.45%. Our investment advisor, Mr. Nichols, sent us a message, which I'd like to just repeat to you, reminding us that in the past few years, we have been reducing risk in our portfolio, shifting more of our allocation to fixed income and high-quality equities, with a preference for secure and reliable streams of income, which support returns in difficult markets. Which is why our pension has been performing fairly well.
I'm gonna say 3.49 against what's happened in the equity market in the last 5 months. It's good.
Any questions there?
Let's keep on.
Okay. So as of April 30, we had total cash balances of 40.9 million, total pension balances of 29.6 million, for total assets under management of $70.5 million. So we'll move to page 2 of the treasurer's report, showing the revenues broken out in more detail. The tax revenues were $201,678 for the month, bringing the fiscal year-to-date total to $50,213,872, or 101.7%. So we're definitely over 100% this year. Budgeted for fiscal year 25. We received our 3rd installment of our ECS money from the state. So I would assume we'll receive our last installment before the end of June, which we tend to do. So let's keep our fingers crossed. In terms of local revenues, the town collected $172,135 locally, for a total of $407,801 in local revenues, for the total of $53,377,891. So far for fiscal year 25, we have a surplus of $1,937,849. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for the treasurer? Thank you very much. Search.
I have a couple of questions. So one of the things that we did during the mill rate was decide to give all the money, the golf money to Parks and Rec, right? So previously we agreed to give them $100,000, something around that ballpark.
We still have to execute that. So in July or August, I'll make those transactions after the fiscal year closes. But yes, those revenues are gonna come down by 100,000.
Right, and then, but now we're gonna, in addition to 100,000, we just give them everything out as well.
Right, so whatever it's earned,
So right now,
44.
right, but that's,
So far.
yeah, mini golf hasn't opened yet, right?
right,
So-
we still have 2 months,
Right,
May and
right.
June, yes.
So those are pretty big months, so it may either be, could easily 160, 160.
Usually about 200 to 225,000 per fiscal year, so.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
So now, excuse me, so now that money is put into the park and rec.
Strategic.
Who's overseeing that? As to what they do with it, or how they do with it?
That fund is supposed to come back to the Board of Finance if they take money out of that particular strategic fund,
Over a certain amount or just
just in general.
in general, okay. Good.
Virgie also.
I have another question, so on the second, on the top part with the tax collection part, so the the second line item, the property tax revenue, where we anticipated a budget of 100,000, but we collected 290,000 so far. I'm presuming, so, you know, back to the suspense level, this has been the remaining parts of what grant this year, 2019, not that these numbers match at all, but that year was $5,000, so essentially out of the 290,000, that's almost an significant amount.
So the active years that aren't included in the suspense report are the last 3 years.
Right.
Most likely that 290,000 came from one of the active years, but it could have come from
Right.
one of the suspended years too.
But it's a trivial amount, and relative to, yes.
Right.
Wow, pretty good. I mean, we're collecting way more than we were budgeting for them.
And that's the one that we moved up a bit
Right.
this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good problem.
Okay, other questions? Thank you, Madam Treasurer.
Thank you.
Leanne.
Righty. Okay, so for the surplus projections for this fiscal year, as the treasurer said, $2 million so far in a revenue surplus. Plus, when I look out to what we did last year for the last 2 months, we had another $1 million, so projecting a revenue surplus of about $3 million. We typically have a small surplus or underspend on the expenditure side. So I'm thinking that maybe somewhere between 3 and 3.5 million for a surplus for this year. And right now we're looking at reviewing our capital plans and all the projects that we have. So that we're starting to put forth and bring together projections for what we can utilize for our surplus for this fiscal year. So we're working on that now. Moving down to ARPA, we have 10 projects left for $1 million. So we spent 2/3 of our money so far. And Beaver Dam Trail Culvert, 610,000, pretty soon. I think that's going to be done this spring or early summer. The DPW equipment, the other piece of equipment, should be coming in soon, and that generator is supposed to be done pretty soon too. So those 3 projects right there are close to $1 million. So once they get executed and paid out, we're going to be almost done with our ARPA funds. On the second page, during April, ARPA expenditures increased by 264,000. That's what brought us up to just about 2 million. We did finally get the dump truck for DPW that we've been waiting for. We got one of them. We're expecting to. Second one's going to be paid out of the DPW equipment fund. So this one was paid from ARPA. And so that was the majority of the increase in April for ARPA expenditures. Then on page 3, capital non-recurring appropriations. During April, the Board of Finance approved the tree inventory grant match, $10,855 and $22,000 for the e-finance upgrade. Both of those were approved at the town meeting that was held on May 5th. And on page 4, in terms of cash flows, so the general fund, we had $400,000 worth of revenues coming in and expenditures of 3.2 million. So the general fund was down 2.8 million. Capital funds were 145,000 and for the capital funds. Oh, the capital funds was water. The CT Water Company paid us money for paving. They had ripped up several roads, Cornfield Point, Pratt, Gates, Mohican, and Sea Lane. And so they were reimbursing us so that we would do the paving work. So that came into the capital funds, 145,000 from Connecticut Water. The reserve funds were down 699,000. Part of that was the purchase of the truck. We had moved the ARPA funds to the reserve account, and then we paid for the truck from there. And the other 425,000 was from Boston O'Neill WPCA. That's for that sewer project that we've been spending a lot of money on that recently. And then non-major funds down 130,000. Again, that's always the pension fund is the major mover in that activity. In terms of our next section, capital outlays, the only movement we had last month was public works. It went from 100,000 down to 75,000 when we purchased that truck. Come July 1st, we're gonna put another $100,000 in, and then as soon as we pay for these trucks, it's gonna go negative shortly thereafter. And then we're gonna hopefully sell some of those trucks and put some more money in. But I think that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. The last page, yes.
Before we leave that section 3, so just a question about the rest, if I understand it. Oh, sorry, so the last column, the balance, that eventually will go over to the second column, is that the intent by the end of the year?
Pardon?
The balance amount,
Yes,
is that all money that will eventually be spent in this fiscal year?
it will not be. So if we look at this, each of these sections ties back to the budget somehow.
Right,
And
right.
this section here, what is all of the capital that we budget every single year. And it's part of the budget, and I can show you, if I had the budget book, I would show you. It's all of our named projects,
Right, right,
the
right.
monies that we put into all of our reserves. So this $5 million in the column with all the dollar is gonna be, if tomorrow or July 1st would be our beginning balance. And then for fiscal year 26, we'd add probably, I think it's 921,000 that we're adding to that. It'll go into those from our budget beginning of July 1st.
So if I could just pick a specific example, right, like the Parks and Rec, Clippers bathroom, right?
Yeah.
I think this is the one for,
Maple Avenue,
the Maple Avenue one, right?
yeah.
That would, so did that happen and we paid out the 58,000 or has it not?
That has not occurred yet. That's gonna happen this spring. I did talk to Ray about these things. And some of these projects, because they're for Park and Rec, they can only be done either in the fall or in the spring. And if they don't get done in the fall, they typically get done in the spring. And I know that he's working on these. So by the end of, so for example, if you look at the YFS van at the bottom, 45,000. We have 1,308 left. That
Right,
means
right.
that we bought the van and we didn't spend the full
Understood.
45,000.
Okay.
That'll go back to capital
I
non-recurring.
see, all right, I understand now. Fair enough. Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay,
Okay, then, just a couple of other things, on the last page that has all of the accounts, I like to point out some of the accounts that might go over at this point with this year. So, about a third down is VBA, 415502. I mentioned that before, they had some legal bills for some of the things that they're working on. Again, it's not a large balance of a budget line item, so anything, it's only a $13,000 line item, so $1,000 extra is gonna make it go over. Political subdivisions, 4177 is at 91%. I just wanted to make everyone aware that we have had a request from the estuary, which comes out of that line item for an emergency. They had a critical, commercial oven fail for their Meals on Wheels. And so it's a $40,000 project. They secured a $10,000 grant and they requested $2,500 from each of the 9 towns. So we have paid for that.
And, yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
You can go. I'm done. You want to say something?
So, that request came in and I just said, we're not gonna be one of those towns that quibbles about this. I mean, it's an oven for Meals on Wheels. And it was an emergency request. So we'll just run that budget over by $2,500. You know, it wasn't something to come to the Board of Finance with. I didn't think until now. If you feel differently, let me know. I don't know how else to handle something like that. We could have paid it out of contingency, I suppose, but just figure run this line item over.
Sounds like a hot potato to me.
less of a hot potato than we want.
But, you know, the sad thing is not every town does contribute and I think, I forget how many towns, 9 maybe in that. And like Westbrook basically doesn't
That's
contribute.
terrible.
Well, they have their own senior
they have
center.
their own- Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Kind of like the NATO of the shoreline.
so.
I like the idea, let's be the NATO.
So in any event, I don't know how many towns did contribute that 2,500 or not. I'm not sure, but we did.
Okay,
I think it's important.
And then
Other
the-
items?
The last item is Park and Rec, almost down at the bottom, 97%. That's over, I'm sure, because, you know, we haven't even started the season with the parks and there'll be mowings and things like that. So I don't expect it to go over in a major way, but I do expect it's probably gonna go over.
Okay, and in August or something, will we kind of revisit an expenditure sheet like this and be able to say, okay, here's what went over and here's why?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Any questions,
It's a
George?
good question. So, okay, not me to be, okay, well, I started, so I should ask, the police department budget,
Mhm.
but what's anticipation, I mean, of how much surplus they would have at this point? I mean, they're spending about 72% right now.
So I don't know the specific answer to that. I have looked at their salary line item because, as you know, we're doing a transition
Right,
there.
right.
We have to make sure that we have enough funds. So that's gonna be extra than it typically is. But we do have enough money to get through that. I'm sure that they're buying some equipment, but I don't know. It's going through the police commission and I have not heard anything from them about any major expenditures or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Could I make one suggestion on the formula?
Sure.
And I know I asked the same question on some other form. When you have the police department and the park and rec and public works having separate line items, you don't get a sense of the total performance of that department because it's not totaled.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you could inject that into your form.
I can give it a try. I like to use our report writer on our e-finance system, but it's, you know, written in SQL or something, and sometimes I can't figure that out, but I will make sure that we get
I mean, in any
information.
form
At least-
that we
at
have
least-
it,
Yes,
I think it would be
it's, yeah, I know what you're saying.
advantageous to just see how the total department is performing as we go along.
I will at least do it by hand if I have to.
Oh, don't do that, no. Always let the machine do the work.
Yeah. I'll try.
Brett?
Oh, the computer. Do we keep track of, how much money we used from the surplus during the year? Like this past year, did we use 400,000 or whatever?
Yes, we keep track of it, but I don't keep track of it by surplus here. So I know what we put into surplus. A lot of that is, like, for example, we put money into capital non-recurring. We put money into the library renovation fund. Those projects haven't even started yet. So when we look at,
I'm thinking about more like, we had to buy a tractor, it was an emergency, it was 130,000 or something like that.
I don't know exactly how you mean for me to keep track of it, but if we buy a tractor for emergency, we buy it and it comes out of the, you know.
Surplus funds, right?
What's that?
Does it come out of surplus funds?
It depends where we designate.
What I'm trying to get at is if we have if we used $1 million worth of surplus funds last year, rather than either we had to go back to the town and, you know, appropriate the money or take it from somewhere else. How much did we save by paying cash? Because we had the funds available versus we had to say, we're not gonna buy the tractor until July because we have to put it in next year's budget and all that kind of stuff. And I was curious to know, how much, you know, like we say we spent $1 million during the year for extra situations.
Mhm.
At 5%, we saved $50,000.
Shouldn't look at it backwards, we should look at it forwards. In other words, we don't have to now pay for that item in the future. We
Right.
don't have to tax our constituents in the future. And we try to, we have our capital plan, we have our long-term capital plan, we have other reserves for other items. And I would say that our surplus, Board of Finance approved surplus policy focuses on bringing the money towards those types of projects. So, by using our surplus at the end of the year.
I'm all for it. What I'm trying to get to is.
Yeah.
Rather than like if November, we needed a new whatever. And it's 50,000, rather than put it in next July's budget. And at that point, the price of the item could go up X amount. And then, we'd add to the budget. We're doing it better because we're using our savings and there's value to that. And I was just curious as to what the value is to the town that we can afford to buy things during the year that are needed, essentials, versus we gotta wait till next year's budget. And, look at all materials are going up.
Or we'd have to borrow the money to do it, probably. would
Right,
be
well,
the
that's
way.
interest too.
Right.
So,
So that
It's
would
all
be the
cost.
cost, if that would be the cost. The cost would be twofold. One, if we had to go to market and borrow it, or two, if we use our own money, then we're not earning interest income on it. So it's, but it's there for us to use.
what you earn is never as much as what you have to pay.
Correct.
And then the other thing is you're getting it now versus getting it up to a year later at a higher price.
Especially in a higher inflation environment. Yes, it's all positive.
I was just curious if we kind of knew that. because-
We know it intuitively. I don't keep track of it.
Okay,
Well, we know what we put surplus money toward last August or whatever it was.
Mhm.
So I guess, would you want to know what we've done with those projects that had surplus designated to it? What's their status by, the end of May?
well, I think it'll show, what we spent. We were able to spend without creating a cost.
Mhm.
And it could be a new cost. And I think that needs to be apparent, because the other side of it is we got all the surplus and we're charging these people taxes. But, the nice thing is we got a great rating on our borrowing ability. And we have the funds available to do these things at today's price. So there's value to that. I was just curious if we
Yeah,
ever thought about the value of that.
got it.
That's all.
Okay. Other questions for Leanne? Hearing none, thank you very much. On to the select report.
Just a couple things. The probate court modification is being built out right now, so. There's not a lot of construction other than in what is now the fire marshal's office. So if you come in during the day and would like to see what's being done, you can see what's being done. So fire marshal's office right now is an office you walk into. And that's it. So you have the outside office, and then the fire marshal himself will have, and there's an interior office in that office. So what it will be now is you'll walk in and there'll be a counter to the left for the public to deal with the building official and the admin, and then a door that will now be the entrance into the office for the building official and the admin. So that is the main construction going on. There's a door that needs to be built into a wall, but the main construction is occurring right now. Larry Hayden and Sal Asso from Majestic Electric are kind of looking at the IT and the electric needs in there and coordinating that with not only the current court, but the probate court administration, because they're very interested in where their probate courts are. So we're dealing with the IT needs there too. I'm hoping it will be relatively seamless as we move through summer here. The construction's moving along really nicely. So if you want to take a look, go upstairs and take a look and you'll see what's going on there. But dispatcher negotiations. So we have 4 unions in our town. Police officers, our support union, which includes Public Works, our supervisors union, which is all our directors that you hear from during the budget. And then we have dispatchers, which are over at the police station, small union. There's 8 or 9. Those negotiations begin tomorrow. So I'll keep you advised as to how those go. We had a lot of bids going on lately. So we had 3 bids come in over the last, I think, 2 weeks. I don't know if I reported any of them yet. The crosswalks, so the crosswalk at Liberty Bank, St. John Church, and Liv's Oyster Bar, south of Elmwood. Those 3 are being completely redone with an increased landing area, essentially. So when you come off the sidewalk and move towards the street, the lanes, the traffic lanes, there'll be an increased landing area for you as it goes towards the crosswalk. And then there'll be buttons for rapidly repeating flashing beacons. And those will be in the median. And then obviously same thing on the other side. So we're doing 3. We have money set aside for it. And it's a good thing because those 3 came in, I can't believe how they came in very high. So we chose the low bidder. And it's about 540,000 to do 3, which I thought was a lot, to be honest with you. But it was more than I suspected. But I think it's really important. I think our Main Street will benefit greatly. It's something I've heard for many, many years. And then we will continue to design the other crosswalks as we get closer to Sheffield Street and maybe putting one in across from the Cape. So the crosswalks came in. Yes.
The bump out is gonna be at sidewalk height.
The bump out is there, there's no raised, nothing's raised. It's all at level ground. Okay. Yeah, we did not design it that way, for plowing purposes mostly. And I've heard that for many years, and we get enough broken concrete curbing around town that we said, let's just do it this way.
Is that gonna start soon, like they'll go on during the summer?
I'm sorry?
Will that start soon, that's going on during the summer?
Probably will. Listen, it's construction season.
I
It
know.
can't just be spring and fall,
No, I know.
you know?
Like, oh my
And
God, all the summer people.
Well,
Don't be
slow
okay.
down.
we'll figure out a way to get it done.
True, it will
It'll slow 'em down.
it'll slow 'em
Yeah,
down,
right,
you're
that's right. It will
slow
do
'em
that.
down.
Chalker's Mill Pond Dam, I think I forgot how much we have set aside, maybe 350. That bid came in, I want to say at like 180. 180, yeah,
Yes.
about 200,000. There were 2 bids below 200,000. There were 3 bids of between 200 and 240, and then there were 1 bid came in at 700. I mean, it was like, and this is not a complicated job. It really isn't. So we awarded that contract, gave a notice to proceed on that. That work will be a July to August, September job. It won't be that long, but that is the window due to the flora and fauna in the area, you know, turtles and active wildlife. And the Route 1 sidewalks, which we have $1.5 million put aside for, those are the sidewalks from Dairy Queen to Westbrook Town Line. We have $1.2 million approximately in state funds, and we have about 340,000, I want to say, in town funds already put aside. That bid came in at about 1.25, so about 1.3. So it actually came in right on line, and I think the next bid was at 1.4. So it seems like we're in the ballpark of where we should be for these projects. And again, that's gonna be a difficult project as to when you do it. Connecticut Water has to do some work in that area first before we can even go in. So that's gonna disrupt Route 1 traffic right away. So a lot going on in addition to Beaver Dam Trail, which will not be a traffic problem for 99% of the town. Nor will Chalker's Mill Pond Dam. So, look, I mean, we can talk about problems, summer, blah, blah, blah. This is gonna be, these are difference makers, the crosswalks and the sidewalks, and they're good for the town. And obviously you see we're repairing all our sidewalks on Main Street. And then Bill is going in, and we're gonna do all the parking spaces, and then we'll have appropriate crosswalks. I mean, our Main Street should be an A+ Main Street, and it will be after this. So hopefully by the end of the construction season this year. One other thing, with the Materials Innovation Recycling Authority, that's the quasi-public that takes all of Old Saybrook's garbage, recyclables. So back in the day, we used to pay $65 a ton for everything all in. Now we pay $135 a ton for both municipal solid waste, which is garbage, and recyclables. So South Meadows plant, where our trash was incinerated, closed about 2 years ago. And the legislature said, okay, now we want to reclaim this land for the city of Hartford. So we need to shut Mira down completely. I was on the Mira board. Now I'm on the Mira Dissolution Authority board. And I'm happy to report our final meeting will be next month. And when I tell you that, and Leanne knows, I've spent, just the meetings are endless. And to give you an example, last Wednesday, and this is not complaining, this is just, it's ridiculous. The meeting started at 9:30 in my office, or in the office here. I had a flight to catch in the afternoon. I went to a municipal conference because I'm a director on the KERMA board, which insures the town, and they were having a conference out of town. So our flight was at 3 o'clock, and I got off the phone at 2:45.
Oh, geez.
However, progress was made, and I know. So I was with Ashley, and she looked at me, she said, I hope they're solving the Middle East war crisis. This is ridiculous. And she's right. So anyway, we've come to mostly a resolution that was voted on. There are 2 transfer stations that remain, Torrington, which I won't go into, and Essex. 9 towns currently go to Essex. We had, and I generally don't go into Mira stuff here, but we had a contract with Mira when it was still Mira through fiscal 27, June of 27. The maximum price would be $141 to take away our garbage and our recyclables. In fiscal 26, it was going to be $135. We've now come to an agreement that the current operator of the Mira transfer station will charge us for 26 and 27, fiscal 26, 27, $140 a ton for MSW and $100 a ton for recyclables,
Thanks.
which is about 50% of the cost of 50% of the volume. However, the deal we worked out, and honestly, I would have resigned off this board a long time ago, except for the fact that I wanted to be part of knowing what's going on with it. We have a contract, and I basically said, look, we should be held harmless at least through fiscal 27 because we had a contract. And so they put aside money from the reserves that Mira had that I hope will hold the Essex towns harmless on our recyclables. So what will happen is we'll take our recyclables to Essex, He will then take them up to Berlin where they get processed. Jason Manafort will get a bill and he will hopefully just build a state. And that money will be, hold us at $140 a ton for just our MSW. So we're reimbursed, he's reimbursed on the recyclable, $100 recyclable charge over 26 and 27. Does that?
At 100%.
At 100%, that's correct. That is the plan right now. After 27, we'll see how it goes. We'll see, we'll see where we take our garbage. And, but it has been, just very briefly, they asked me when Mira was dissolving or when Mira became NBA, they said, Carl, you've been on the board longer, would you be chairman? And I said, no. And it's one of the few boards, volunteer assignments that I said no to, because I knew it was gonna be an ugly mess. And I will say that the chairman who took it, Bert Hunter from the Green Bank, I don't know, has done a much better job than I ever could have. I compliment him every time I see him. I'm like, you are a good man for taking this on, because the hours you've put into it and the work you've done on this has been outstanding. And he should really get a commendation from the legislature and the governor. He really should. He's done yeoman's work. It has been an ugly mess for the last 2 years. So that is your update on that. That has been in the works for 2 years. And I thought this board should know where we're going. So lastly, I'll say that 124 Old Boston Post Road with the roof falling in has sold. It has transferred title last Thursday. And the demo permit was submitted today, and hopefully that house will come down next week.
Yeah, saw the dumpster in front.
Hallelujah, right?
Just a quick question on the mirror thing.
Yeah.
Does that need approval by any other body?
In town?
No, I mean, either the legislature or does DEP have to sign off on it or?
The board of directors, the Mira Board of Directors is authorizing the use of reserves. And we voted on it. So, I don't believe so.
Yeah, as a quasi-public, you're working on your own.
Yeah, I don't think so. The reserves are there. So there's no need for us to go anywhere else. And the legislature said dissolve by June 30th of 25. They meant to say 26, by the way. That was a mistake in the legislation. And it's just been, when I tell you a mess. And I look forward to not being on Mira Board. I truly do. And hopefully we can figure out our garbage moving forward. We have 2 years to do that, find a reasonable rate, hopefully keep it right about where it is, increase our recyclables, increase our diversion of organics if we can, and get people to throw away a little less. That's kind of the goal.
Absolutely.
And that, of course, when you have less tonnage, your price goes down. So anyway, that's it.
Do you have any tracking on the organics?
Yeah, we know how many pounds. Yeah.
Is
we
it,
do.
is it flat? Is there any increase on that?
I'd have to look.
Yeah.
We do have tracking on it. You know, what's also been pretty good is Bay State Textiles. We have a bin over there. And people think when you have clothing, oh, Goodwill or Salvation Army. But Bay State Textiles at the transfer station, they'll take rags, old towels, things you would not
Shoes.
you would throw shoes and you would throw it in the bin, and that leads to increased weight. The tonnage on those, they pick up 4 times a month, and the tonnage is significant. So that has come out. And Bill has run a tighter transfer station.
Mhm.
He's the transport station is running better and they're collecting more revenue. But that's a work in progress too, which we don't have to get into tonight, but.
Okay, question for Carl.
They are doing a very good job over there. With the transfer.
Yeah.
The guys are up and out and
Mostly, I mean, I still get the occasional complaint, you know. George?
Two questions. Very impressive about what you've done with Miro, because that story is on the news, right? And so that board is a mess. So congratulations for even taking that on.
Congratulations on it ending, truly.
On terms of the transfer station, you had mentioned a while back that you were trying to hire someone to actually, like a part-time person to sort of help out that area, but it didn't work out in terms of just the logistics.
Yeah,
Did that
a
happen?
like recycling coordinator.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay.
So the union objected, the support union objected, because they said that one of their workers does some of those functions and could do the remaining. And so I ran it by Labor Council and he disagreed. So we are probably going to do that at some point soon. As hire a recycling coordinator to try to get into the schools and
Right.
kind of educate the kids. Goodwin, we have organics collection at Goodwin now through Blue Earth. We're paying with the small bottle funds. And one other thing they are doing is liquids. So they're collecting like milk they don't drink. And they're pouring it into a container that, so it doesn't go into the garbage to increase weight. I think they're doing that. So, but the recycling coordinator is still on the table now that I believe we have freedom to do it. But I didn't just want to do it and get it. I wanted to make sure I got counsel.
So second question, so the probate court, 20 towns share the probate court? No, not that many.
How many towns? 13 or 14 maybe?
Are they gonna pay rent for it?
There's a payment plan right now.
I see.
We're all on it. And it's a per capita that was designed in like 2009 or 11 or so. We pay, it's cheap. It's like 5,000 or 6,000 a year, and we're one of the highest paying into that. So most of the towns are paying less than $5,000 to have the probate court here. The idea is for the towns to share the construction costs equally, and not equally, based on the
Sure.
same formula. Honestly, I was gonna suggest, and again, I'll leave it up to this board. I was gonna suggest from surplus that we put the first 10,000 down. It's, and then share the costs. It's construction to our building. I think it will benefit the town in the long run. That doesn't, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm willing not to share it equally. I'm willing for Saybrook to step up and pay for a little bit more and then share the rest. But that will be a decision we will all make together. It doesn't have to be discussed tonight.
what are you talking about total?
I'm sorry,
What are you talking about total?
how much?
Yes,
I don't know. We received the first invoice from the person doing the work for 2,200 today. IT and electrical, not sure what that will be. I don't know. It'll be the total construction. It'll be at least, it'll be 25 anyway.
230, yeah.
Yeah. The architects, I have 5,000 in architectural bills. And it's that was a smart thing to do because the builder can just build based on plans. They don't have to look at anything else. They don't have to figure out, and it'll make the construction go faster. So we have 5,000 in architectural, probably another 30 in construction. So we'll take a look at it when it's done. It's gonna be done. We'll have a really good idea within 2 months. Really good idea. 9 towns. I think it's only 9.
Yeah, 9 times.
Okay, anything else for Craig? Hearing none, we will continue to move. Comments from board members, any board members' comments, Nick? Seeing none, hearing none, public comment, we have the same members of the public that were here earlier, so we're fine. Comments from the chair, just a couple of things. One is a reiteration from a week ago, thanking both Carl and Leanne for the work on the budget and thanking obviously with the results from the town has a lot of trust in the work that's done here, and I think that's great. Thanks to the rest of the board for all the hard work that was put into it. It was a great result. I personally would like to see more than 270 people vote for a $50 million
Yeah.
budget, but maybe what we can do is set a goal of, let's double that next year or something along those lines. But and people I talked to, why didn't you vote? I didn't know about it. So somehow we just need to get the
Yeah.
word out a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the electronic signs in town. The high school just had award-winning stuff. I thought in the past we had put something about a vote on.
It was on there.
What?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't, all I saw was.
Not on the high school one, no, I don't think.
Yeah, all I saw was
maybe
like
not
a
on the
little,
high school.
you know, lawn sign there, so, yeah, I
Lawn
ran
sign?
into. Yeah,
On the
there was
electronic
there was just a
thing, it
little
did
lawn
say-
sign when I went to go,
Oh.
and it was.
But it was on the
said
other
vote.
electronic signs.
Was it? Okay,
Yes.
so I'm rarely, yeah.
I had this conversation at this conference I was at last week, and a lot of those first selectmen and mayors had just passed their budget too, and they definitely get more than we do. But one town has, if 5% of the population registered voters don't vote, it automatically passes.
Wow.
They have that in their charter, which is like almost
Yeah,
the
yeah,
reverse
yeah.
of what you would think. Guilford had, I want to say about 1,500 to 2,000 vote, but they're also probably 2.5 times as big. So, but definitely more than Old Saybrook. Yeah,
It's just
we can try to get more people out next year. I think it's a good idea.
set a goal, see what we can do. And then in the budget process, there were two things that we chatted about that were discussed within the budget process, but not part of the budget, so we talk about later. One was this whole issue about when a department goes over a line item by a certain amount, just to report back to the Board of Finance. And the other one was a question about looking at the Board of Finance policy on surplus. And, are there changes that we would want to make on that? I have a question about June. June 3rd, I believe, is the Tuesday. Difficult for the financial reports to be done then. Would it be possible for us? I don't think the line item conversation is going to be that long. Would it be possible for us to discuss both of those, do you think? Or are there other things that you've got coming up for the first meeting in June that we should plan for the agenda?
I don't know of anything at the moment. The only thing that I had to talk to you about was an RFP for an auditor.
Right.
And I was gonna talk to you first before we brought that forward, but
Okay.
that's the only thing on my mind.
Okay.
I don't know of anything else.
So if it's okay with the board, why don't we'll agenda both of those items for the June 3rd meeting. I think we do have, maybe if you can send out to everybody, Leanne, a copy of our current surplus policy so that everybody has a chance to take a look at it before we come and discuss. And that's it for me, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Thank you all very much.